Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I'm a relationship hacker.
Run up and get touched up, suicide. And all of y'all know my style. I excel, then prevail. Run up and get touched up, suicide, that's it. And all of y'all know my style. I excel, then prevail.
Oh God! You shot me up! Oh my God! Fuck your breath.
I'm losing my breath.
Turn that up.
Fuck your breath. Fuck your breath. I'm losing my breath. Fuck your breath. Fuck your breath.
You told me I was a slave and that my people were slaves. Never did nothing but suffering from the cradle to the grave. We ain't never been brave, never more than primates. We never progressed past the level of apes. I used to read about warriors, rebel leaders, and revolutionaries. They spoke of freedom or death. How they could fight until nobody was left. Fighting until your last breath for the right to be free. But none of them were black like me. We turned the other cheek and we got maced in the face.
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show is back in the building. It's Monday, the 4th. May the 4th be with you. 2015, May 4th. Unofficial holiday for Star Wars geeks. May the 4th be with you. It's almost like Mike Tyson is saying it. May the 4th be with you. No disrespect. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how we do. Topics. It's going to be crazy today. We got a great topic. But before I get to the topics, you know I got to promote black businesses. Community empowerment is the name of the game, especially in today's climate, man. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and we need to get to that. But before we do, Weed Juice. I need y'all to go out and support this brother. He comes every Monday, and he brings freshly created juices. WeedJuice.com. That's WeOUI Juice.com. We, the French word, WeedJuice.com. Please support the brother. Put in your, when you go to the website, he'll give you, I guess, a 10-20% discount if you put in the Zoa Show or something like that. And contrary to popular belief, we don't get paid for any of these endorsements. I don't even get paid to do this show. So we promote black businesses for free. You know, I'm wearing somebody's t-shirt right now. They sent it to me. Build Pyramid, Create Greatness. They just sent me a t-shirt. A lot of people say, oh man, you crazy, you stupid for doing that for free. But I'm saying if nobody sacrifices or creates an example to be modeled of sacrifice, then everybody will be for themselves. Everybody will be out for themselves to get what they can get. And I think that's one of the problems in our community right now in terms of cooperation and organization. Everybody has an agenda. I don't have an agenda but to support black businesses. See them get off the ground, right? Maybe I can say later on, I blew him up. Maybe that's some credit. Oh, I blew him up, right? I feel that way with Ramomart, right? Ramomart.com. Go check out Ramomart, right? That's Ramomart.com. That brother right there has some incredible clothing designs. I want y'all to support him. I want y'all to support, Elephant. Listen, a lot of people were talking about elephant.com. I want y'all to support Elephant. They sent me a code that only So What fans can use. Again, I don't get paid for this. But he developed this code because nobody's buying his clothes. Nobody from this show is buying his clothes. I think one person ordered something, right? And I appreciate the brother. I appreciate the fact that, you know, he believes in what he believes in, and we should support him. He says, I got a coupon code for you, brother. ZO20 LFANT. ZO20 LFANT gives your listeners 20% off any crew neck on the site. The crew necks are those sweaters they got, man. It's really nice stuff, man. Y'all go support this brother. Nobody's buying his stuff. But you buy Jordans. right? You buy Jordans, right? We buy Jordans. How many of y'all went to go see The Age of Ultron, right? I'm just saying, like, it's really stupid. And then you complain when you get killed and marginalized and all that. You complain about all this shit, but you won't come together. It's really ironic. It's really stupid. What else we got? Veronica Conway. She should be on the line right now. Veronica, what are you selling? They need to know about it. What's up, hon?
I am inviting people to come and play, with change their reprogramming from that of the owned to that of the owner. That's blackmastery.com. It's a really killer reprogramming technology to reprogram your mind, get you up and moving into your black power. And we're also I'm getting ready to launch another business boot camp because you know how we get down. We get together virtually and we make money.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. She's a hell of a coach, transformational coach, changes lives. She coaches me. I can only endorse her because she coaches me. That's why that's why I endorsed Dr. G. Dr. G helped me a few years ago. He helped me. That's why I endorse him. And he helped me for free. How about that? Let me just say, continue to support Arise Hospitality. Continue to support Arise Hospitality is like Staples, Office Max, but it's black folk. They put it together. They can get everything you need. The same stuff you get from Staples, you can get from them. Arise Hospitality. Also go to easyboyweb.com. All businesses that are black owned that I don't get endorsements from. This is how radio works. Typically, they advertise, you get paid for that. This space with this audience, you're supposed to get paid for that. How many of y'all giving back like that? How many of you out there listening to this show give back like that? I'm just saying. Easy Boy Web. You need a website, e-commerce, social media, all of that. They got it. Support that black-owned business. There's more. Oh, again, put up my PayPal because this is how I get down. This is how I live. This is how I survive. Not through the PayPal. This PayPal is for those who want to support the Relationship Dismount Book Tour. Now, a while ago, we had an Indiegogo page, and we didn't get to our goal. Our goal was based off of a concept that we want to do a tour across the country, right? The tour across the country is a relationship roundtable tour. You understand? Where we go out, because to me, relationships are the bane of the existence of the black community. This is why we're not together. It's because we have poor relationships. We have poor conflict resolution amongst each other. We have poor or empty relationship toolboxes, right? And so there's always acrimony and angst, and there's unresolved generational curses. So I want to get to the core of it because I believe if our relationships can get better, our cooperation and organization can follow suit. Relationship Roundtable Tour. Please go to paypal.com. Send your donations to zowhatorders@gmail.com to support the Relationship Dismount Book Tour. The book is coming. I'm going to have it. It'll be manufactured in June. It'll be out late June. And I'm trying to get to Houston as the first city, right, on the tour in second or third week of July. That's the plan. I want to go other places. I want to go to Atlanta, South Carolina. I want to go to Detroit. I want to go to Chicago. I want to go to Baltimore, D.C. I want to do this for our people, for our folks. And when we do this, wherever we go, it'll be a free event. So you don't have to pay there, too. You understand? So, I mean, that's the plan. What other businesses do we have? Did I do Ramo Mart? I did Arise. Sure.
The show, live or whatever. How many of you feel invisible in the world? And I would say a huge amount of people feel invisible. And here's the challenge. When you feel invisible, we tend to focus on what's visible. And what's visible, if you ask yourself if what's visible actually gives a damn about you, they don't.
Wow.
I mean, and if you know the pain of feeling invisible and pushed away, then we all need to at least see each other and help each other, because when we focus on those big brands like Staples versus the furniture place, what was the name of it?
Arise Hospitality.
Arise Hospitality. Staples doesn't care about us.
Wow.
And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about anybody who feels invisible in the world. What's visible out there is you have a lot of invisible people going there and throwing money at it. And whatever is visible doesn't care about what's invisible. And unless you care about each other, you're not going to do anything. And the problem is it's tough for invisible people to see other invisible people.
Wow. Wow.
That's what we need to do.
So I'm promoting these businesses because I want you to support them. Like this one right here. This is a guy who hit me up and said, yo, the black people need to know, black people in our community need to know their history. So what you know about us, We All Matter, African American Edition, a trivia card game, right? WYKAU WHAM. Go to that website and buy this trivia game and teach your kids, because I firmly believe the adults are lost. That's a lost cause. I believe you want to change the community, you got to change the kids. You get to the kids, you give them a higher quality of thought where they can appreciate each other and love each other and there's mutual respect ingrained in them. You can let the old people deal with racism and prejudice and stereotypical thinking, black and white thinking. Get to the kids. And so my whole movement here is to support black businesses. All right? With that said, go to my website and order coaching. I do relationship coaching. IamZoeWilliams.com. You got the website up? Yeah? Do you got it? There it is right there. Relationship coaching for men and women regarding relationships. If you really want to get down with me there. That's my livelihood. And plus that second book is coming out. So with that said, we're going to take a quick break. Put that placard up as we go out to break, or we got a video. We'll be back with topics. This shit's going to be crazy. Corey Holcomb just walked in the building. What up, bro?
What up, G?
All right, then. We about to get active. I'll talk to you in a second.
Sunday best. Others in Lexington, Kentucky are trying to sleep off their hangover. This was the scene in Lexington last night as UK fans rioted and did stupid things like hold alcohol with a flaming shirt in your hand. That, of course, follows last night's crushing loss to Wisconsin. Instead of sulking or being grateful for a tremendous season, they burned couches and clothing. Police in riot gear lined the streets to try and keep order. At least 31 people were arrested, mostly for disorderly conduct or public intoxication. 3 people were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
The lawless, destructive riots shaking our nation. No, those are Kentucky fans. I'm sorry, after losing. The lawless, no, I'm sorry, that's Michigan State fans after winning. No, I'm sorry, that's a pumpkin festival gone awry. Come on, those are just kids blowing up steam with good-natured arson. Yeah, there you go. That's the worrisome, let's call it urban violence we were looking for.
It has been a night of chaos, violence, lawlessness in Baltimore over the death of Freddie Gray.
Right now, the National Guard is on the scene trying to restore peace. And as we said, all public schools are closed today.
But, you know what? That's probably even the one time kids don't want to hear the announcement schools are closed. Honey, no school. You have a riot day. Just stay in your PJs and watch your favorite cartoons. Be preempted by footage of our neighborhood in flames.
was clear today the Canucks were determined to distance themselves from this crowd, repeatedly saying that these are not our fans, even though many of the rioters wore Canucks jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing. I think those were not the real Vancouver fans that were doing that. I think it was probably some isolated groups and stuff. So it was tough to watch, that something like that happened to the city.
I didn't see any of it. Just drove home. It felt like a practice in the morning. There was no one outside the gate there, so just drove home like any other day.
I watched when I got home, and it was sad to see, I think. But like I said, it doesn't reflect our fans or the people of Vancouver. It was unfortunate, and yeah, it was sad to see.
The Canucks were asked if the organization should have done more to calm the fans by using the big outdoor screens, perhaps, to run pleas from the players to respect.
A white guy like me co-hosting a black radio show. I think toxic relationships cause you to take poorer care of yourself. That if you can recognize danger, if you can pause, if you can take some breaths, refocus, and engage, you might be able to dodge a bullet that you're going to send coming towards you. One of the things that men don't get is that often women need to vent first to clear their mind. Hey there, today we're talking about how the media treats black riots different than white rioters, and how it just won't let up treating black rioters like they're thugs, and white rioters as they're being just a little bit boisterous. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about an article I wrote called Outing My Inner Racist, and we're going to put this up, but I want to do a little education here, because there's actually 6 steps in this article that I wrote, and instead of it being about one-on-one, if you look at this, let's go through this the way institutions work. So if you think about it, the first step is a lot of white people, and I think the white media, cannot believe that blacks are not angry, because they know in their hearts, well, I've been treating them poorly for a long time. I'm prejudiced against them. And so there's this thing called projective identification. I mean, you throw yourself out there and say, well, if I was them, I'd be angry. And the next step is what we call a disavowal, in which they're saying, no, that's not me. I'm not an angry person. I'm a peace-loving person. This is all the issue of those black folks. And then they even deny any anger that they have. No, I'm not angry. I just want, peace and love all over the world. And then what happens is the way they look out at the world, we call that an orientation bias, meaning they keep looking for something to tell them they're right, and so it's to validate. And so what will happen is they keep looking. They're looking for blacks to raise their voice, blacks to say an angry comment, and then what happens is they go over to something called confirmation bias, which you say, oh, see, I told you so. They are angry. They're out to get us, and we can't let them get us, and we are justified in whatever we do. And then this justified self-defense, becomes a kind of retaliation. And when you have a mindset, especially a mindset of people who like to be in control, and a lot of white people in law enforcement, one of the things they don't do well is fear. So they turn fear immediately into retaliation, even when they're not in any danger. I mean, when someone is running away from you, you're not in any danger. But if your mind can turn that into fear, then you can justify shooting them in the back. And I think until we own that, until white people own the fact that we have this anger that we project on black people, and a lot of black people, when I speak to my friends, they say way down deep, even though we're angry on the surface and we seem angry, we're more afraid of white people because we feel like the deck is stacked against us, and no matter what we do, it's stacked against us. And so the fear is, what are they going to do next to us? And I think we're all in this world together, and we got to stop it.
And we talked about this before. Let me just give the topic again. Today's topic, thanks, Doc, quiet white riots. Why is there a double standard between how the media covers rioters that are white versus rioters that are black? white criminals versus black criminals. It's strange. Historically, the narrative in history is blacks have always been slaves. So we should always see them in every culture, on every continent, as those who were predestined to be slaves. Born slaves. This is why they will claim to be Egyptian, right? This is why they will claim to be every other culture. They won't let you have an original knowledge manuscript of who you really were, because now they're pushing a narrative. They do the same thing in the news, right? So now the new N-word is thug. This is why they won't apply it to white rioters. So today's topic again, quiet white riots. Is white criminal culture on autopilot in America? White criminal culture. Is the term thug the new N-word? Is white on white crime an unspoken American tragedy? Ugh. Don't white people kill other white people too? Isn't this white on white crime? Are the perpetrators of these crimes thugs, technically? Right? When it comes to violence and criminal behavior the world over, which gender and race is the undisputed world champion? Who could make an argument against the white man being the world champion when it comes to crime and violence? When you rape a country of all its natural resources and then say, I'm going to subsidize your labor so you don't get the benefit of the import you're sending, whether the import is cotton, whether it's gold, whether it's whatever, and then you keep that company or that country poor because you loaned them money, and now you say, well, don't pay me back the loan because you can't afford the interest, just pay me with your labor. And then you take the gold out and mark it all the way up, and you pay them pennies on the dollar. Is that not a form of violence? Poverty is violence to me. And when you impose it on a third world country, you did it on purpose. And you're raping them and you're robbing them, right? Robbery is violence. I'm just saying. Somebody talk to me about this. Can white supremacy / white criminal privilege be labeled as a type of terrorism? 844-55-1. Oh, that's a whole nother number. Excuse me. 855-878-4652. Because I want to hear from you guys today. 855-878-4652 is the number to dial. This is my last question. True or false? Is the seemingly passive media representation of white criminal culture a main source of racial tension in America today? White people get away with it. Black people get persecuted and crucified through the media with it. 855-878-4652. Get to your phone lines right now. I'd like to hear from you. In the building right now, we got Dr. Mark Goulston, author of
Just Listen.
And
Real Influence.
And
Get Out of Your Own Way.
And no, he got like 6-7 books.
No, I can't remember.
Right, he got a lot of books, man. And the big homie is in the building, about to drop science up against your dome. Corey Holcomb in the house. What's up, Corey?
Hello, everyone.
Jeez, are you on me already again? Jeez, man.
He might be mocking me right now.
Right, tell him so. I got to lower my octave here.
Oh,
That's my
God.
job interview voice. Hi, sir. How are you?
Got to get that damn
I'm
job,
here to serve
right?
you. I'm here to fuck up in my mind. Anyway.
Do you think liberal blacks, conservative blacks, whatever, Republican blacks, Democratic blacks, any blacks that's middle class and higher, do you think they kind of turned a blind eye to white criminal privilege?
No. I think that they intentionally protect it so that they can feel accepted by the people they want to impress. I want to say to all of the black youth in Baltimore, I hope you were able to identify this isn't a white person, this is a black person. That black bitch mayor hates you, and she wants you to behave even though the police force are out to destroy you and justify the purge.
Wow. Wow. Talk to me about the purge, the concept of it.
Well, this is what's happening. This is the calm before the storm. They're using their media to build up a form of justification as they report stories. They use men like Don Lemon, and they let people like the mayor talk because they're trained to speak in favor of the system. So as people like common folks who don't really think, they just watch the news as a source of their information, they believe that the people in all these American cities are the bad guys. So it justifies what is being planned to come at.
Even the president came out and said that those kids were thugs.
The president? What is a black politician? That is not the person who is here to help you. A black politician, in most situations, that's your enemy. He has said, I want to be part of the team that I feel is going to be in charge.
Wow.
So I'm going to get on this team. I'm going to make it seem like what you're doing is not justified. What you need to do is trust the system, even though we have watched this system. Basically, it's a all my friends are in the system. That's why that cop who killed that unarmed black girl in Chicago, he wasn't charged with anything.
Really?
He beat the case.
Wow.
Unarmed black girl.
Do you think there's a trend now to prosecute the cops? Because now cops are being either fired or they're being brought up on charges. And I'm just talking about the Baltimore cop is brought up on charges for Freddie Gray. But like I told people in the Trayvon Martin case, don't get excited just because they bring charges. That don't mean somebody gonna get convicted, right? But I think there's a trend because you know how America does. For many years, cops hardly ever got brought up on charges for police brutality, for killing people, for excessive force. Now all of a sudden, because of I think it was Ferguson, even though Darren Wilson got off. He was brought up on charges. What do you think of that, Doc?
Something we should talk about, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, is the effect of everything being videoed now. Because now you can't hide from. Now people can distort what they see because they take stuff out of context. But now everybody is, on alert because it can be filmed and you can't deny it. I mean, the last few shootings. There would have been nothing if it was not videoed, right? And so there's an effect at being videoed, which I think it's what we're going to see is more of this because I think it makes people more brittle when you're videoed.
But America videotaped the civil rights movement when they let them dogs loose on peaceful protesters, and to me, that's an act of terrorism against your own people.
That's
Corey?
the point I'm trying to make. It's always who's shooting and who's being shot. If a black police officer shoots a Caucasian person who pulled out a knife on him, he's going to lose his job. And he may be brought up on charges that will have him locked up. But if a Caucasian police officer kills a black person in America, he has the benefit of the doubt. He has the system with all his Caucasian friends in charge, making sure that his life and what he did, he doesn't have to answer the price that the black officer did when he shoots. This is why the black officers in Baltimore are not in control, even though it's more of them than Caucasian officers in Baltimore, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a lot of black people on the force in Baltimore. They just don't have the power.
I was going to say, if there are any black law enforcement guys out there, tell us your experience when you guys cross the line, when you guys commit police brutality, when you guys, what is it, malconduct or misconduct or whatever. Do they drop the hammer on y'all quick as hell? Speak on it like that, because y'all might be the ones who are getting prosecuted, who makes up the numbers of police getting prosecuted across the country. I want to know how many white officers get prosecuted.
Yeah, I'd also like to hear if there's any black officers. I'll bet you hold back before you act. I'll bet you, think of the consequences much more than white officers. I think
You cannot be standing over an unarmed Caucasian citizen talking about, oh, he did this, oh, he did that. A black officer, you can't do that.
Right.
You will be charged with murder and go down for murder.
Listen, when we come back, Veronica Conway will join the conversation as well. What Morning Show, Quiet White Riots is in the building. Check out this video. We'll be back at 2.2.
There was one new candidate. JCK is the name. Would you change your mind and make the decision?
So let's do a little comparison here between the reason behind the Ferguson riots and these other predominantly white riots. In 1998, for example, there was a riot in Denver because the Broncos won the Super Bowl. I don't even understand that. I've had this conversation about 30 times with different friends of mine. I never understood that. I mean, it's one thing to riot when losing, which is still stupid because it's sports. Why are you rioting over sports? Why are you affecting people's livelihoods over a game? But losing, it's still, there's a slightly better argument, even though it's still dumb, for rioting when you lose. When you win, we did so well that we should totally fuck up everything around us and hurt people. There's no logical connection, but somehow that happens. Okay, the next one. In 2012, there was a riot in San Francisco because the Giants won the World Series. Again, I don't get it. Apparently, white people love to riot when they're happy. Strange.
One of the things I find most fascinating in my conversations with white people about the drug war is their insistence that those who are doing time did the crime. So what's the problem? And then I'll say, well, did you ever drink underage? You know, when you were in high school, did you ever drink underage? Did you ever experiment with marijuana? And then very frequently you find people shifting their seat, getting uncomfortable. And this idea that of innocence, that other people are the criminals, but not them, is a thoroughly racialized idea. And, you know, I often point out we're all criminals. We've all made mistakes in our lives. We've all done wrong. Anyone who's an adult has broken the law at some point in their lives. But some of us have the privilege of making certain kinds of mistakes and going on to college or grad school and off to work and never having to check that box on employment applications, while others of us do not. In fact, you know, research shows that a white man with a criminal record is more likely to be hired than a black man without a criminal record. So even this system of mass incarceration, when white folks are ensnared by it, doesn't affect them in the same way.
Wow. Wow. Again, this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about quiet white riots. They get to riot and do all kind of shit, but they don't get the vitriolic right-wing coverage of it. You never see Bill O'Reilly. These white thugs in Kentucky tearing down the city over a game? You never see that. And more importantly, you never see the Stephen A. Smiths who have the audacity to speak on our ancestors being ashamed. Our ancestors would be ashamed if they heard a black man telling other black men who are all under an oppressive system to get in line. Our ancestors would be ashamed. They would say, Stephen A., you're telling them to get in line?
Our ancestors would make it where those people cannot walk the streets among us.
Oh, you know that.
You will not be able to just speak for the other team and then come live amongst us.
No.
That's the problem.
That's treason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah.
But this has always happened. Like, I just want to say this about the guy who said the people who rioted when they won. Now, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm a racist, but this is my observation as life has given me this much time on earth. I think Caucasian people, when they get happy in a group, that's when they become the most dangerous, because back when they used to have public executions and they used to hang black people and, you know, the businesses would make a lot of money as it was going down and everything.
It was an event.
It would the coverage I saw, they were all happy. They're charged up.
Yeah.
They kill happily.
We having fricassee nigga tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Doc, and then Veronica Conway is going to join the conversation. Doc, your thought?
Sorry, Corey, is a question. Do you think there's a fear in whites, I'm a white, of the herd mentality, where you don't have the fear of the herd mentality in whites? So, I mean, whites will have a fear of the herd mentality in blacks. Well, we've been putting the whole race down for so long, they're gonna pull together, which they normally don't do. They don't normally pull together. They're gonna pull together, and there's gonna be this great uprising. Whereas with white people, they're just getting out of their system. They're having a tantrum.
Damn, that's interesting.
So I'm wondering if there's this fear. We got to shut it down quick, because if they really connect, because we've kept them disconnected.
Damn.
So they can't organize. But boy, if they get connected and
that's interesting. What you're saying is so fucking interesting right now, because white people are afraid, according to Dr. G, of black organization when most black people ain't even thinking about organizing. Now think of that shit. Organization ain't even in our mind. It's get rich or die trying and fuck you, nigga.
They have...
While white people thinking, if they ever came, that's a fear for them. That's their anxiety, and it's the furthest thing from our mind collectively.
Why do you think it's the furthest thing from our minds, though?
Shit.
Why do you think that?
Because I think they've been busy programming us to be Willie Lynch and against each other and at each other's neck and living up to their standards. Let's see what Veronica Conway got to say about it. VC?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, so we got to understand that what's being perpetrated against us is really psychological warfare. And we have to understand that part of the narrative of psychological warfare makes everything about property. So if you evoke images of us as thieves, then we become legitimate targets of police violence. So this whole media narrative is designed to promote and protect property. Now, it was much simpler for white folks when we were property. It was much simpler for them then about what they wanted to do with their property. But since we're not their property anymore, the narrative, they use the narrative to depict us as thieves so that they can justify their brutality against our bodies.
Let me say this. Veronica, talk about the fucking birth certificate and what it really is in terms of being a fucking bond, right? See, like, this is why I always say, people don't understand, like, just because you've civilized brutality, that doesn't make you civil. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, let's engage in barbarism and brutality in a civil way. which means we're refined. And then when the people push back, they go, oh no, you're barbaric. You're a thug. You're unenlightened. And this is what's happening. And the saddest part about it is that you see black people who are in alignment with the powers that be because they get a little piece of crumb from master's table. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they will forsake, they will commit an act of treason against their own people just to ensure their crumbs are not bothered, are not messed with. I mean, it's a cold game. Am I bullshitting here?
No.
So
no, I mean, we also have to understand that one of the parts of this narrative is that the civil rights movement is being depicted as nonviolent. That's been the programming. Like the most successful part of the civil rights movement is nonviolence. Well, that's actually not the most successful part of the civil rights movement. But they would have us believe that so that we don't return fire with fire.
Well, it becomes a ritual. It becomes the ritual of passivity, right? This is the best way to protest. Remember MLK? Well, listen, MLK was nonviolent. Malcolm X was. They killed them both. The real violence is intellectual.
Was Malcolm X violent? Or was he the type, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back?
But see, that's how they labeled him.
That's why I just want to make the difference.
Yes, they labeled him as violent. No, he said, listen, karma. That's what Malcolm X was, karma. You fuck with me, I'm fucking with you.
Right.
For every action, there's an equal yet opposite reaction to the shit you bring.
I never seen him fuck with people like I'm going after somebody to fuck with them. He normally was a guy who kept a smile on his face and was approachable from what I heard when it comes to common folks talking to him.
Right. Doc, you said something earlier about confirmation bias. If I can control, I tell the women the same thing. Don't let all your... If you don't challenge the beliefs you have about relationships, what will happen is men will engage you in conversation to get an understanding of your belief system so we can then match our behavior to your belief. Once we match our behavior to your belief, you'll get confirmational, you'll get that confirmation, behavioral confirmation and say, wow, words speak loud, or behavior speak louder than words. This guy is doing what I think he should be doing, and that means he's a good guy, right? But then, if she never listens to her intuition and connects to his intention for why he's doing what he's doing, she'll never really know who he really is, and then get introduced to his ass after he gets what he wants. Do you understand what I'm saying? She'll be like, well, who is this guy? This is a new guy. Well, the same principle applies. We're following, or they're controlling the narrative, and we're continuously reacting in a way that was already pre-programmed. Do you understand what I'm saying? We want you to behave this way, and the only way to do it is to control the narrative. Take it out of your hands. You're not the author of it anymore. You don't write it, we write it. So what happens? We're going to keep you suppressed, socially and economically, education, we're going to lock all of that down. We know if we keep putting that kind of pressure on your community, all we got to do is send in the troops over some bullshit, and there's going to be an uprising. You trying to tell me uprisings aren't designed? If they can design the stock market to crash, they can design an uprising, a social uprising. Speak to it.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like, you said we don't organize.
Right.
I just really feel like the reason we don't organize is because the family structure is broken.
Speak on it.
If there is not a man in charge of the house with his woman right by his side, and the children are raised without that type of structuring, as the generations go on, you start to deteriorate as a race. People start to become insane, easily influenced because they have nothing at home that's solid.
Wow.
Nothing, no structure that's worth fighting for. Look at the women as they approach their sons once they get a certain age. That is the truest definition, in my opinion, of insanity, because it's my opinion when the sisters get teenage boys that's like 15 through 18, they have no control over them. In fact, they rebel against them like they did their father. And it was her who raised him. I'm not saying it's her fault, but what I am saying is when you get in this, when this world is programmed to think that you don't need a family structure, a woman don't need a man don't need a woman, it's easy to have a race full of people that's disorganized.
Dr. G and Veronica, speak to the bias in the news. You see Adrian Peterson vilified for whooping his kid. Maybe he whooped his kid a little too much. You don't fuck your kid up. But he whooped his kid and he had to lose his job, turned into a bad guy, the whole 9 yards. The man came out and said, this is my culture, this is how I was raised, to whoop my kid's ass. Maybe he went overboard. Sometimes that happens when black mamas and daddies whoop them kids' ass. But most of them kids come back out of it and say, well, if I didn't get my ass whooped that way, I wouldn't have had any discipline out in the streets, out in the world. Now, there's a whole big argument about drapetomania and, inheriting this beating, corporal punishment from slavery and all of that. But the woman was turned into hero mom when Adrian Peterson was turned into a villain. Do you not see how the media will pit black man versus black woman and say she's right for doing what she did, which was basically go Manny Pacquiao on her son's forehead, right? And then this guy is a villain, lose his job, and have to reinstate and reapply for everything. Do you not see the dichotomy there?
Remember when you showed the show with about gender biases, and where you'd have the guy beating up the woman, and everyone go to her rescue, and then the woman starts doing it, and everyone finds it amusing. They almost, and then they come to a rescue. So there is this kind of bias. But you're right about the vilifying the male thing. But something I want to throw out, and then we'll address it when we get back. How much of you think the reason you don't organize is because a great percentage of blacks who, when they become powerful, sell out? And so they have the potential to have that power, but do you think that's accurate? Well, do you think
they don't actually sell out? You know what they do?
Or they go the other side? Or
they buy in.
They give in to who has the most power.
Right. So all that means is they value white supremacy and the infrastructure more than they do cooperation with their own people, because they don't see their own people as powerful.
There's no repercussion for selling them out.
And that too.
Yeah.
Listen, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, the So What Morning Show, quiet, white riots. Ugh. The media's portrayal of black criminals versus white criminals. We'll be back in 2.2. Holla!
People are sick of this. People are tired of the long-legged Mac Daddy, kicking them in the face every time he gets up, lying to them. Then you got a bunch of, suck-ups like the MSNBC News, ABC News, and all these media types, and everybody who's looking to be popular and get invited to the White House, sucking up to him all the time. It's sickening. I mean, it's downright sickening to watch this. You can get these white folk all riled up here. I'm going to tell you something. They're going to come in, the white folk get riled up, they're going to, members of the NRA going to come into the black neighborhoods. I'm telling you. The people just tired of this. White people are being pushed around, kicked to the curb, having their rights denied, being called a racist, being walked on, watching their tax dollars go to fund all kind of drug sales, prostitution, illegal immigration. I mean, y'all gonna push these white folk till they can't take it no more. I'm telling you.
Those shocking images are from Huntington Beach, California, where at the conclusion of the U.S. Open of surfing on Sunday, a white mob began rioting. The angry crowd vandalized property, broke the windows of businesses, looted some stores, and brawled with each other on the streets of downtown Huntington Beach. Police used rubber bullets on the unruly mob and arrested at least 7 people, including a firefighter from Anaheim. You probably haven't heard much about the White Riot in Huntington Beach, and that's because the story of white criminal culture is not a story the mainstream media will tell you. But once you scratch the surface, these stories are everywhere you look. Take billionaire hedge fund manager Steve Cohen, for instance. How many times this week have you heard about the federal charges he's been slapped with for alleged insider trading violations? And what about JP Morgan Chase, a company run almost entirely by white men? Well, that financial giant quietly paid $410 million in a settlement after being accused of manipulating the power markets. The sad truth is that the white power structure in this country has no clue how to solve the problems within the white community. Look, I don't want people to be suspicious of white men, but the Huntington Beach riot underlines a stark truth about white culture. The fact is, 84% of white murder victims are killed by other white people. And we really do have to question whether white leadership, where they are on this issue. The conversation is sorely lacking an appeal from the moderate white community. After all, no one forces white people to throw haymakers after their surfing competitions. And when white youth are raised with so much privilege and so few boundaries, these young white men often reject concepts of self-control and not being a jerk. People are going to say, you know, this is someone who has a personal problem with white people. Do you have a personal problem with white people? Is this animus?
No, I think any time that you tell the truth, there's going to be those people who come out and think that you're doing it for some insidious reason and say that you're a racist. I kind of knew that some white people were going to say that this is just. I'm sorry. I knew that some white people were going to call this playing the race card, but it isn't playing the race card. My best friend is white. My mother is actually white. My prom date in high school was a white woman. She was very white, actually. She used to ride horses and do that whole thing. So obviously, very deep. I have very deep roots in the white community. This isn't hatred for whites. This is just tough love, and I felt it was time that somebody told the truth to these people. It's a hard conversation, but it's one we need to have.
I have very deep roots in the white community.
Who the fuck is that? Tiger Woods can't win another golf tournament because he found out that white people don't like him. he gonna die in about 5 more years of depression because he know. He's like, you guys are my friends.
Veronica Conway, your comments.
Yeah, first of all, I love that piece with Chris Hayes. It was brilliant, but. You know, it's a deep piece. You know, you were talking earlier about how we place so much emphasis on allegedly sort of small violent acts that black people commit against one another, like, you know, spanking and all that kind of stuff, while white violence gets really minimized. So one of the things that I'm not sure if people are aware of is back in 2008, the Supreme Court embrace the NRA's contention that the Second Amendment provides individuals with the right to take violent action should our government become tyrannical. And so,
yeah, that's in the Constitution. That's in the Constitution. We can form a militia. That's in the Constitution. If the fucking government goes awry, constitutionally speaking, you can form a well-regulated militia.
If you know about these laws, the Constitution is not in effect anymore.
We know that, though. That's the other part of that equation. Go ahead, Veronica.
Here's the thing. There have been reported over 300 incidents of white violence, insurrectionist violence, since that date. There's probably been more. There's an insurrection timeline over at the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, and just the bombing and the shooting and just the complete anarchy that's happening over in that community it's mind-blowing. And so, but that never hits the dominant media narrative, because white folks never get portrayed and depicted as thugs and criminals, even though they have very insidious agendas for black and brown people in this country.
Crazy. You guys can go to Twitter and hashtag criming while white. Now, this was trending really heavily during Ferguson, right? And this is when a whole bunch of white people went to Twitter to show their form of protest against the maltreatment of the people in Ferguson, the protesters in Ferguson. And when you see criming while white, all they did was go on there, hashtag, and say the crime that they got away with because they were white. So here's one right here. This guy says, at Ice Cream Mac 10 says, I kicked in the window of a cop car while fleeing from an arrest and didn't get shot/life in prison. He kicked in the window of a cop car. Go back to Darren Wilson's justification for shooting and killing Mike Brown. He was in my car. He was trying to... Now, first off, you started the show earlier, Dr. G, with the analogy of maybe black people are afraid of white people. Black people aren't afraid of white people at all. We're afraid of what may happen to us if we fuck with y'all the way we want to. Right? You understand? Because in our real sense, it's like, first off, tell me I'm bullshitting, Corey. When you was raised, if a white man took your ass on the basketball court, you got shamed, right? If a white man schooled you in anything, you got shamed. Am I bullshitting? If a white man dunked on you, oh, you the butt of the joke for the whole. If a white man was better than anything, at anything, rapping, dancing, anything, you were the butt of the joke, right? We're not afraid of white people. Because if you talk to black men for real, black men know internally, this is just something in it. We better than you. Am I bullshitting?
What's the name of that movie where the animals were on the island, but they had that little chip inside them where they couldn't attack the dude who was torturing them?
Oh, Dr. Moreau?
Is that his?
The island of Dr. Moreau. That was it.
That's what's happening. We have a chip.
That's a good analogy.
We have a chip programmed in us where if we retaliate against this motherfucker that's torturing us, we will be tortured for that.
That's brilliant. And it's a socio-economic chip. It's a chip that says if I fuck with him, my livelihood, my bio-survival tickets, money, it's all gone. I won't be able to take care of myself. He gonna shut me down in every arena of life. This is why when a motherfucker come out of the military, he trying his motherfucking best not to get that dishonorable discharge.
What happened when that motherfucker got the chip out of him, though?
Told that ass. Told that ass.
I'm trying to get the chip out of motherfuckers. That's why I put it all on the line. I risk my acceptance in a society that probably would accept me, even though it would be that acceptance like a pet, like right. Obama them are happy with. You know what I'm saying?
Corey, tell me about the protesters that were white in Baltimore that the media wasn't covering.
Well, they showed it on Twitter. It was a whole bunch of white kids in that CVS doing what the black kids were doing.
But that wasn't the narrative they wanted to tell.
They did not show the white kids on television coming out of CVS. They showed images of black people and said the word thug and all of that. But they did not show white kids running out of there with the dick erection pills and the condoms and all the stuff they stole.
Dr. G, can you shed some light? Why use the media in such a treacherous, deceitful way? Do you know what that would... I mean, you got to know now. I mean, with all of this information out here, the internet and everything, you got to know that there is an agenda to marginalize, right, black men in America. Why would they just say, okay, we don't want to film those white kids coming out doing the same fucking thing? Why is that, Doc?
I think you got to look at the most powerful people who head the media, and so there is this kind of hierarchy that you're afraid of ticking off whoever the top bosses are, and so and it's pervasive through. It's probably pervasive through all kinds of organizations. You're afraid of the top dog, and my guess is there's a perception that with the top dog that if you don't play it that way, that it could come down on you.
Wow.
In
other
words,
I have a question about that.
What? Go ahead.
I have a question about that, and this is for Dr. G. So, yes, there are these top dogs and there are the powers that be, but none of this could exist unless the white middle class, lower class, supported the whole institution of white supremacy with votes and dollars and whatever it does. So here's my question. What is it about white psychology that continues to allow this level of genocide to be perpetuated? Is it because deep down inside the white middle class and the other that they benefit.
Well, something Jeff Brown says over and over again, which I agree with. He says, what poor white people got to realize is the enemy is not blacks; it's the other whites. And when you realize that you're buying into a convenient scapegoating of blacks, and your real enemy is you're the 99% who are having trouble, just paying your bills. I mean, Jeff makes a point of that over and over again. So I think if you can deflect and aim it away from the people, in power who really are not using it responsibly, I think that's going to continue. Go ahead.
I think there's a group of people, they are black, they're white, they're Asian, they're every group. Most people want to be accepted by who they think are the elites. So even though the poor whites or the middle class whites are in the same they're in the same boat that we're in, they don't want to face that. They would rather be accepted by who they think are the elites. That's why the people in charge of this country can continue to do what they want to do, because there's so many weak human beings that want to be accepted. The strong is rare, but you can breed strength and pride into people, but that's not what's being done. What's being done, they're breeding you to be weak and obey.
So the copers in our society have to be exiled. The copers.
The weak.
The ones who want to cope with the system, the status quo, keep your head low, shut your mouth, be quiet, don't you say nothing because that'll affect your job. Those people are the ones that destroy our community, and I'll tell you why. A corporation is set up on corporate bylaws, correct? In other words, the corporate bylaws are the constitution of that business, of that corporation. So I can fire you if you're not in alignment with the corporation, right? With the bylaws. Well, for African Americans that are affluent or middle class, they adhere to the corporate bylaws of a system, and we've said this before, that is oppressive and disrespectful to the lower classes of people. It's not even black and white. It's all lower classes of people. So what those black people will do in those positions will fight and defend the system that feeds them. And as long as they have a price, listen, there's compliance on both sides, middle-class white people and middle-class black people. Middle-class black people are not coming out in droves. Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, these type of people are not coming out in droves saying, hey, white people riot all the time for dumb shit, and it gets, sloughed off as, oh, those kids will be kids, and kids, sometimes lose it. Have you heard Stephen A. Smith come out and speak on the paradox?
He has to stay where he is because his hairline will stop him from getting women. But look,
wow,
I used to have a basketball coach who would not let the guys in the middle make his team. He would get the best players, the best 6 or 7 or 8, and then he would get that lower group. He wouldn't let the guys who actually could play a little, but they're not that good, play because they would cause trouble on the team. Do you get what I'm saying? I never understood that when I was younger, but I get it. When you got those copers around you,
right,
they will destroy everything because they feel like, well, I'm supposed to have this, I'm supposed to have that. No, you're not really that. You're not that. But you will destroy the whole thing and pretend like you're that.
Veronica Conway, your thought?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talk about coping. What are we really talking about? We're talking about the brainwashing that property is king, and everything else is serving price. So, we're talking about folks that just want to uphold, the power of be. What we're really saying is we want to get over. We want ours. We want our property. So that just shows how deeply programmed this whole notion of ownership. You got to really think about this whole thing about property as power and what kind of mind is wholly and solely invested in that, in what it owns, what happens to its property after it leaves, after it's in its grave, people as property. You got to think about what kind of psychology that actually represents. It's like everything is mine, right? And so that leaks into black culture too, and that's kind of what Corey's speaking to.
Listen, we got to take a quick break, and when we come back, more on quiet white riots. That's today's topic. T Radio V, Radio NTV. Once again, T Radio V, Radio NTV. Get to my PayPal. Send some money there, man. We're trying to do this relationship dismount book tour. Please support that. When we come back,
Rudy, why are you ignoring the epidemic of white-on-white crime? I mean, the reason for those numbers is that, what? You tell me, man. The white people really got to get their shit together, don't they? I mean, 83%? How dare you focus on black people and say, oh, look at the crime coming from the black community, when 83% of the people killing white people are other white people? You know, maybe you should denounce the violence in the white community, because if you don't, I mean, we're all just going to have to assume that by default you agree with the violence. See what's going on here? That's exactly the argument that white racists make to black people. Why don't good black people come out and disavow the violence of bad black people? I don't get it. Don't you want to be one of the good ones? The same thing, Rudy. Nobody says that to Rudy Giuliani, even though the statistics for white people are the same. See the double standard that we got going on here? The underlying premise of the people who make that argument that Rudy made is, come on, you know how they are. We know black people are worse. We know black people are more violent.
That in a second. One group of young people, they said, threatened to beat up an elderly man. Oh, imagine if that happened in Ferguson. Oh, my God. Okay. And another resident heard someone threatening to kill officers, according to the police log. At least 30 people were injured near the school before evening Saturday, and 20 of them were taken to hospitals, Keene Fire Chief Mark Howard told New England Cable News. 20 of them were taken to hospitals, okay? So obviously the violence was significant here. Now, they do cover it in the story, and they explain that. Now, let's go to some of the contrasts between this and when you normally see a story about rioting among African Americans, okay? Student body president Bobby Graham said he was disgusted by the destruction he saw and said he believes most of the perpetrators were not Keene State students. Now, that's reported as, yep, okay, that makes sense. They're not mainly Keene State students. Now, when it was reported that most of the people that were causing trouble at the Ferguson protesters were not from the community, it was always with a note of skepticism. Like, organizers of the protests say that a lot of people are not from the Ferguson community. Not, okay, the guy says it and it's obviously the case, right? You can say I'm nitpicking here, but the tone is important because it paints a picture for people. When black people do this, it is incredibly dangerous, and that's how they are, right? When white people do it, oh, golly gee, right?
Crime happens in every community, whether it's Hispanic, Asian, white, black, whatever. I mean, people like O'Reilly, Hannity, and Limbaugh trying to make their living off of throwing a lot of shade at black people because they know there's a group in this nation that love to just hear about black people, and they're so obsessed with black folks that they can't do nothing with themselves.
So, crime, frustration, anger, disappointment, part of the human condition. And every culture in the world experiences it, right? I'm sure if you do research, you'll find that amongst Chinese on Chinese crime is probably comparable to black on black crime, is probably comparable to white on white crime. But here's the power of the media, the power of suggestion, the power of hypnotism. I'm going to keep saying niggas are the world's most dangerous thugs. I'm going to keep saying that. Right? Because that is what I want you to believe. And it doesn't fucking have to be true. We know Christopher Columbus didn't discover fucking America, but that's not going to stop us from creating a fucking holiday around it and continuing to say the shit. We know Napoleon said history is a collection of agreed upon lies. That's not going to stop us from propagating history, because history is propaganda. The media is propaganda. We have a narrative we want niggas to believe. Now,
what is propaganda?
But tell us, because you spoke on this before, Doc, in the last show. Propaganda. Speak on it.
Well, propaganda is when you propagate something, and so what's happening in the media is they're propagating something that continues to keep the lie going, keeps it true.
The reason I said what's the definition of propaganda, because I always try to think of people who are from where I'm from. I know they don't know what the word propaganda is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's why I say, what
well,
is propaganda?
Dr. Umar Johnson said it too. He said black people don't understand propaganda.
Right.
He said the same thing, and he's right about it. We don't, listen.
What is the definition of propaganda?
What's so beautiful about propaganda is this.
Them motherfuckers lying. That's the definition of propaganda.
Really? But it's based off of black and white thinking. What is the basis of black and white thinking? Right versus wrong. Where does right versus wrong originate? Religion. So look at all of these different institutions in place to buttress black and white thinking. So now, if I put black and white thinking in play, if I want to see what the reaction of the community, this is social engineering 101. If I want to see the reaction of the community, I will introduce a polar opposite thought to the thought of that community and watch there be an uprising. Watch there be a response. Why? Because you don't write your own ideological narrative. You accept it from an educational system that's programming you to think in a certain way. They never wanted you to think for yourself. They always wanted you to think according to what they said is high quality thought. What they said is right and wrong. That's how black and white thinking works. That's how stereotypes work. This is why I say I'm perpetuating a narrative, a stereotypical narrative, that black men are criminals. Well, look at the stats. Over 2 million out of the 2 million people incarcerated today, over 50% of them are in jail. Black men make up 6% of the American population, but make up 50% of the prison population. Well, if he didn't have a fucking stereotypical bullseye on his back, would the number still be the same?
The first time I came in contact with what your show topic about is today, I was too young to word it, but I realized it. When we were in high school, we would always go hang out on Rush Street in Chicago late Saturday night. And it's where all the bars are, but there were girls walking up and down the street. So we'd be out there, doing our thing. But in this McDonald's, I saw these two white guys get in a fight. Now, Rush Street is known for the police being... they have a no-nonsense policy down there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've seen black people get hit with billy clubs and thrown in the back of paddy wagons for not even getting into fights.
Right.
But I saw these two white guys get in a fight in the McDonald's on Rush Street.
Wow.
And the police came in there and broke it up, told them, put your friend in a cab and take him home.
You guys are just drunk.
My mouth dropped. I was about 17 years old, and I couldn't believe that the police officers looked at them like it was just two guys who got into it.
Right.
They said his friends were over there. They said, come get your friend. Put him in a cab right now. Take him home. I was like, wow, did you see that? And I was a young man. I didn't know how to word it. I just was in awe. I rode home. We catch the subway home with my mouth open. Like, I can't believe I saw that happen. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But now that I'm older, I realize that's the way it really is.
Wow.
How much you think getting people to focus on a narrative, as you say, is always connected with not holding someone else accountable?
Wow.
Because if you get people to, if you draw their attention, hey, let's rubberneck against this thuggery and these blacks and whatever. Well, isn't there someone you should be holding accountable for your crappy life? Oh no, but this is much more compelling. And what happens by the time you get that sort of that contact high of watching it and vicariously living through it, you don't have the energy to hold someone accountable who could be keeping your life miserable. And I'm wondering how much that's happening, because And that gets back to the whole thing we talked about during the break, that you got to get organized in order to hold anyone accountable, because as an individual, you're just going to be feeling what we call impotent rage, the rage of powerlessness, and you're going to take it out, and then they're going to do whatever they are.
Right.
But unless you get organized, I
right.
think...
But this is why I say, and then I'm going to go to Veronica Conway after this statement, this is why I say the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the so-called leaders who are designed to, they're like zookeepers. They're designed to feed us and maintain us this, with this bullshit ideological shit, because they're the gatekeepers. They support and protect the system of white supremacy. They're just there to keep us in line. They're like police officers. They're like overseers, right? Because you never heard them speak about, let's just break it all the way down. Let's just break it all the way down. I'm teaching y'all to cope. You never heard them say, I'm just teaching you to cope. I'm just teaching you to get by. Because that's the best. The white people are in power, and I'm just here to show you a way to make it through without getting in trouble in their system. Because that's really what they teach. They're not saying straight up and down, it's fucking wrong. And I'm not going to take $1 from them. The moment they take $1, they got to back up an ideology. Their ideology. Am I bullshitting, Veronica?
No, it's true. Here's my question back to Dr. G. What would it take for white people to hold themselves accountable for not perpetuating white supremacy and genocide against black and brown bodies?
Wow.
Okay, so
what would it take?
Okay. People don't do what's important to them. They do what they care enough about it. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that would cause white people to care enough about something to take responsibility for how they're perpetuating it? I don't have a great answer. I think
Corey got an answer.
I know. For me, the part of the reason I'm on this show is part of the reason I care enough is when I feel inconsistencies in me, when I find myself bullshitting myself, I feel a sense of shame. And it attacks me, and so. But I'm probably different than a lot of people that. That shame compels me to try and do the right thing, but I don't know what would cause white people to care enough. One of the things we talked about in a previous show is, why don't you all, if you have stocks, short Walmart? Just short the stock if you own stocks, and then boycott. And if you organize that way, and the price of the biggest company in the world goes down, then you'd say, hey, maybe we have some influence that we're going to have other than anger.
But Veronica is saying, what is it going to take for black or for white people to just step up and say, we've turned a blind eye to this shit far too long. No, we're responsible for this shit. We perpetuate a narrative. We write this narrative. What's it going to take? Because really, white people could offer that grand gesture of perpetuating racist ideas and concepts.
Okay, so when is an ugly woman gonna stand in front of the world and say, I'm ugly and I understand why you don't treat me fair? That's what white people would have to do if they were to stand up and be solid about what they've done. They're the weaker.
Wow. Before we go to break, Elon James White, at Elon James. This is a tweet which is the opposite of criming while white. This is hashtag alive while black. Alive while black. He states, before we go to break, blindsided while riding bike and knocked unconscious. Woke up to cop questioning me. Blood streaming down face. Cop leaves. There we go. We'll be back at 2.2. Quiet, white, riots. So what mornings?
Like elephants, you can feel it all in your hips.
He says, well, we need the cops in black communities. Okay, yeah, you need the cops everywhere. That's why cops exist. But what happens when they fuck up? When they fuck up, should they just be allowed to get away with it? No problem, just like they didn't do anything wrong? No, the issue in question, it's not like all police are on trial right now. The issue in question is what happened with Eric Garner in New York and what happened in Ferguson, Missouri with Michael Brown. And the merits of those two cases are perfectly clear. There should have been an indictment. There should have been a trial. And especially in the case of Eric Garner, for sure, there should have been somebody found guilty. Because we all saw the video. Now, when he comes out and he says, well, they just should have not went for murder in the Eric Garner situation. Okay, that's a fine opinion to have. But they didn't get any indictment for anything. For anything. Not assault, not excessive force, nothing. Not manslaughter, nothing. So, Charles, the reason why people are mad at you is that when you made your comments, you only focused on the black community this, the black community that, and treated them like they're wrong about everything in this respect, and you're bringing in slavery into the conversation. See, that's the thing. Look, okay, so the point you made is, well, let's not make this about race. Well, how about if we respond to you, okay, let's not make this about race. Let's just make this about the merits of the Michael Brown case and the Eric Garner case. Then what? Then you're wrong and we're right, because your point is, well, I agree, there shouldn't have been an indictment in either case. And you're wrong, because the evidence shows that those cases were thrown because cops were looking out for their own. That's what the evidence says. That's what the data says. So don't tell me you looked through the evidence. You didn't look through the evidence. For whatever reason, you're knee-jerk siding with the police officers. And again, I like Charles Barkley. I do. He's really honest. He's a really fun guy. I don't think he means any bad by what he's saying here, but he's been misled. He didn't look at all the evidence. He doesn't know the entire situation, and I think he's taking it upon himself to be like this father figure for the black community and to tell them, oh, come on now, don't make excuses, don't blame.
You guys work with OPD? What's your name? Roy. Your name's what?
I'm Roy, he's Dev.
Roy and Devitt. What are you guys here for? Why are you guys here tonight?
Michael Brown and Eric.
You're here for Michael Brown? So can I interview you about Michael Brown?
What do you want to know?
How do you feel?
I feel like some injustice.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
What do you want to know?
Just what
supporting it and you causing that on a police officer.
Yeah, tell me more about why you're here. Mr. Buford, Officer Buford.
At our...
As you can see, Buford is trying to get us to
say it right. Thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate you guys here supporting the movement. Officers, it's like such a stand in solidarity. I mean, we never get cops coming to our protest. Like, supporting it? That's crazy. You guys are actually here supporting us? What do you think my name is? Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. So, can you pronounce your name, officer? Pronounce your name, Officer Buford?
Say it right. Thank you very much, sir.
While you were out there bullshitting, were there plainclothes cops at the Kentucky riot, at the Denver Broncos riot, at the Huntington Beach riot? Why are there plainclothes cops amongst the rioters? We've gotten reports from Ferguson and Baltimore that there were agitators in the crowd amongst the peaceful rioters. You trying to tell me there's no agenda involved in these manufactured riots? I already said before, a riot is a ritual. It's no coincidence that this is the 50-year anniversary of the 65 Watts riots. No coincidence. And if you don't have control over your own narrative, you mean to tell me you're going to produce the same answer for old problems that have existed over 50 years? If we were in control of our own narrative, you mean to tell me we couldn't have come up with a better response than burn our own shit down? All you got to do is put a couple of well-placed informants in the crew, and they know what your reaction gonna be because you don't have no new knowledge in your community. They know this. It's a ritual, man. You've been saying the same spells over and over again. This is the white man's world. The white man run this. We ain't got shit. Oh, You better do what the white man says. These are all narratives and rituals that we keep saying over and over and over again. And when we don't get what we want, we respond in the same way we've responded since 50 years ago.
If you don't criminalize the system, you're wasting your time talking as you speak about them. When you don't program the people to understand who their enemy is, you're BSing the people. You're playing with the people. When you get, like you say, those preachers and Obama and this mayor chick who's been the latest on Front Street,
right?
Those are criminals.
Talk to me, Veronica, about, and Corey's right. Talk to me, Veronica, about the prosecutor who's prosecuting these police officers in Baltimore, and they trying to come for her. Tell me the science behind what's really going on.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I can. You know, the prosecutor's a deep sister, and she comes from a long line of law enforcement. But she did a really brilliant thing, I think, that will set some precedent for how cops get prosecuted. She's an independent prosecutor. She was able to bring independent investigators in with equipment, like 100 independent cops, and bring them in to investigate this, so that before they had a chance for the cover-up, before they had a chance to let the evidence disappear, all that stuff, she just kind of swooped in and worked around the clock and kind of nailed it. And so in many respects, and because of that, the Fraternal Order of Police are threatening to primary her, they're threatening all kinds of things. So she's actually setting a completely different precedent in how this stuff gets handled. And I gotta say, she's quite dynamic about it. Plus, she doesn't fear cops. So she'd gone on the record saying, I don't fear the Fraternal Order of Police. Fuck them. I mean, she didn't say that, but
the Fraternal Order of Police,
the Klan,
secret society, is the only Klan on planet Earth that accepts black members.
Mm-hmm.
Police.
I was just going to say, if they accept black members, it's because they're willing to do their bidding. If
Stephen
A. Smith can be part of that Klan.
That's my point. If you don't see any black prominent leaders in America standing on what we're talking about right now, we might not be the most eloquent, right? We might not be the most informed. I ain't sitting here trying to say I'm the professor of, the socio-economic demographics of what's going on. Let me just say this, though. If our black leaders are not banging on the system as hard as we're banging on the system, those motherfuckers are like lawyers in a courtroom. They are officers of the court, and they are subject to the jurisdiction of the court and the judge.
It seems like
that's who our black leaders are.
It seems like I'm extreme, but Zoe, let me ask you a question, because if you say it, I think people would listen. Will hear it in a different part of their brain. Mm-hmm. Do you think Obama is a criminal for acting like he is for the people?
I think Obama is a criminal for continuing the agenda that has been going on for centuries. To me, that's a criminal. Because think of it this way. Do they not still hold President Bush accountable for certain? He can't go to Sweden because Sweden wants him for war crimes. And if Obama comes into office and extends virtually every program that Bush had in place, would that then not make Obama a criminal?
It makes a difference when you say it also. It makes a difference if the doctor says his opinion of Obama like that. It makes a difference if Veronica says her opinion of Obama like that. See, when I say it, I just sound like an angry black dude because I'm a big black dude who really doesn't try to talk in a certain way where people would think I'm educated or whatever.
So what happens if somebody comes
Obama
at you?
is a criminal, and we need to make T-shirts that say Obama is a criminal, Black America.
But what happens if somebody comes at you and says, "Hey, man, this is just the system"?
What do you mean?
You know how these apologists of the system would say, and I'm talking about black people, the copers.
Yeah, I was
they'll be like, "Hey,
the people you talked
this
about
is the system we have, buddy. This is what it is." Stephen A. will say that.
They don't care.
Charles Barkley will say it.
Who's ever winning that's whose side they're going to be on. That's what you got to know about people like that. They're only down with the winners. They're called, what we call them in the hood is them jock riding mother. You know what I mean?
Dick riders, right? Doc,
They're-
did you hear what Corey said?
Do you think Obama is a criminal?
Your honest opinion.
Kind of put you on the spot, didn't it?
Well, he's not necessarily a criminal for Doc.
And you can't answer with a question.
I think he's abandoned his people. Now I'm trying to think if that's a crime.
That's a crime.
And
Wow.
As the president? Oh yeah, that's a crime.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's abandoned his people. I think he's done worse by black people than most presidents in recent history.
Damn.
Wow. And I agree 100%.
That's heavy.
He's the worst president. The worst ever. Nobody. I wouldn't care about the presidents who ordered strikes on black people verbally on television. This is the biggest criminal African American in American history. Obama, as he sits up there and perpetrates like he is for the people.
Well, he's perpetrating a narrative. He came out and said that the rioters are thugs. To me, to just jump to the thug narrative without understanding, like Jon Stewart said. Jon Stewart said, listen, Baltimore has been dilapidated for decades.
People who never been to Baltimore don't have no idea. I go to Baltimore and hang out downtown on the weekends. It's a danger zone.
Right. It's been, The Wire was a representation of what's really going on.
It's no joke.
So if Baltimore has been in trouble for decades, how come one of your major jobs coming in there, I need to do something about Baltimore? That's still America, right?
That movie, The Birds, when it was going off at the end, where those birds, everybody was scared to walk past them because they could attack at any second, that's Baltimore.
Word.
If you don't know nothing about it, it's no joke. They not playing.
Wow, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, final thoughts. We're going to wrap up the show. This was a great show. A lot of information, a lot of truth. It is what it is. We're going to tell you the truth. This is the news outlet you probably should fuck with because we're not beholden to anybody. We ain't got no goddamn sponsors but you, and y'all motherfuckers don't want to fuck with us on that. So we'll be back. 2.2 seconds. Zoe What Morning Show. Oh, man, today was a great show. We talked about quiet white riots. There is a decided difference in the way the media portrays white rioters / criminals versus black rioters / criminals. One of the things that you see with white crime is that after they've done the time, there is a road to redemption, right? There's a way to come back. And like you take Marv Albert. Marv Albert was a sexual deviant, biting women, all types of shit. But he was still able to do his crime, do his time, be called out on it, and still leave for a moment in the NBA and then come back and start calling games again. Typically, when black men fall, they stay falling. I.e., O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, Tiger Woods. Typically, when black men fall in the media, they stay falling, right? And most people who are of a younger generation don't know who Marv Albert is, but he was the voice of the NBA, the voice of the playoffs, right? But he was able to have somewhat of a second coming because he was able to get back to the pinnacle of where he was before it was found out that he was biting women and raping and harassing. I mean, look at this. Darren Sharper, and I'm not justifying rape. Darren Sharper is being prosecuted in multiple states for giving women date rape drugs. and raping them. Handsome brother, football player, brother. You being prosecuted in multiple states. You get convicted in this state, they taking your ass to the next state for trial. You get convicted in that state, you're going to be in jail for 4,000 years. Ben Roethlisberger has raped 3 women, and they're not talking about it. He's still on a football team in the NFL. He's still playing football, and he has these tendencies. Where are the feminists who bang hard than a motherfucker on women's rights? How come they not at every single fucking game for the Pittsburgh Steelers? You came out against Floyd Mayweather, right? He's an abuser. He's this and that. How come Pam Oliver with the Chewbacca wig ain't there every game saying, Ben Roethlisberger, you wrong? Because white people have been cultured to have a grace period when it comes to crime. That grace period is, oh, he didn't mean it. There's forgiveness for white people. Oh, he was just being a kid. Oh, he made a mistake. Black people make up the gross product for private prisons. If we make up 50% of the population of incarcerated beings in America, and most of those prisons are now privatized, and that means they're a corporation and beholden to the bottom line, any corporation, it is their legal duty to protect the bottom line over people. So now who is the product? Black men in particular. Sisters, if you are in alignment with the government, in alignment with the system, you are by default betraying your people. I know it's hard. Fuck that. I know. It's a heartbreaking notion. But I'll say this. As long as the black community is led by our sister who depends on white supremacy, then the black community will be white supremacy's stepchildren in this culture. This is why we don't have the power to take control of and write our own narrative, because we keep being told by the powers that be in our own community and society, cope, go along to get along, stay out of trouble, get out the way. Am I lying? Because if you speak up too much, they're going to come get you, right? That's the problem. The black middle class and its acquiescence to white supremacy, white media, I'm talking about Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, all those types of dudes, Jack and Jill, Boulay, I'm talking about all y'all. You guys are pillars of white supremacy. That's it. You're a pillar of white supremacy because you now continue the march for diversity, black men and women. Diversity is a pillar of white supremacy. Why? Because now you got to keep asking a system that is white supremacist for room, for space, for a place, instead of having the fucking testicular fortitude to create your own place and space. Because you know if you do that, you move yourself in harm's way. And that's what these classist niggas don't want to do. I'm on the winning team, as Corey would say. Stop supporting blacks who kowtow, defend, and cope with white supremacy. That's how we get out of this situation. Organization, right? Support of black business, recycling of black dollars, and then fixing and healing our relationships with each other, black man and black woman. Putting her on a pedestal, you putting him on a pedestal, y'all building strong families that have been designed, created, and authored by us. Not us seeking to achieve a narrative that was written by somebody else. They can always look down on you once you do that. They can always say, good job, you made it. Pat you on the top of your head like you're a puppy. Good job, you made it. All right. But you know we can take that shit from you, right? That don't mean, just because you made it here, that doesn't mean nothing. We will still fuck with you if you get too big for your britches. Do you understand what I'm saying? Get your motherfucking ass into harm's way. How do you do it? Support other businesses. start healing your relationships. Tell your old ass leaders and mamas and daddies who got this coping belief system, fuck that. Move into harm's way by organizing. The act of organization, the act of black organization is a terrorist act. The act of black recycling of dollars is a terrorist act. Ask Gaddafi. Until you get to that space, you're not going to have the opportunity to have any type of social leverage. Everything about our society is about being accepted by them. Well, I'm trained to play baseball so I can make it to the MLB. If we had any fucking sense, we would have kept the Negro League. Imagine what the Negro League would have looked like if all of the black players who ever played for the Major League Baseball stayed in Negro League. Imagine if we kept control over that. How much would that be worth today? And what would the major leagues look like today in terms of competition?
Inferior.
It would look like it looked when the Negro League existed. Inferior. What we do is we build a business so we can sell it. BET was built up and then we sold it to Viacom. That's how niggas do success. That's how niggas do Mama, I Made It. I'm going to build a business, then I'm going to sell it to the white man, and then he gets to write the narrative. Come on. It's frustrating. It's hurtful, but this is where we live. It's disappointing. And it's heartbreaking. I'm Zoe Williams, and that's my final thought. We got to do better. Corey, where you going to be, man? What we talking about tomorrow on the 5150 show?
Tomorrow we talking about the word bitch and how it affects our sisters when it comes out of the male's mouth and how it affects them when it comes out of their female counter bitch parts.
Wow, this is going to be crazy. The bitch show. Oof. 5150! Listen, Dr. G had to run do another TV show. We appreciate Dr. G because he don't even have to be here. And he takes our punches in the mouth.
If he had something better to do, he wouldn't.
Veronica Conway, where can they find you?
You can find me at veronicaconway.com, blackmastery.com. Theblackpaper.com is my manifesto about black conditioning, theblackpaper.com.
You got to get her NLP programming. If you're going to let the fucking TV program, you might as well let her program you with some positive black shit. Blackmastery.com. Go get that now. Also, put that placard back up there. I need your support, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we're going to be able to get out into the world and do this relationship dismount book tour. We need your support. We need your donations. Please go to paypal.com. Select send money. Send your donations to zowhatorders@gmail.com. Also go to CD Baby and pull up the God Class Volume 1. Let's do a call to action. Go support that God Class Volume 1 CD. It's important. It's a lecture on God. We got to get that God shit out of our minds too. And that CD is step 1 to that. Please continue to support that movement as well. IamZoeWilliams.com for life coaching, relationship coaching, the whole 9 yards. Please get at me at IamZoeWilliams.com. I appreciate everybody for their contributions to the show today. Live Monday, May the 5th, May the 4th. T-Radio V, that's radio in TV. This is what we do every Monday. We're going to try to push the envelope. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys later at Dash Radio. Download the app. That's the only way you can hear that show, The Voice of Reason. Download the app. Once you download the app, go to Hot Button Radio. Download Dash Radio app. Then go to Hot Button Radio. That's the station. I'm there from 5 to 7 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. All right? I'll holler at y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Support that PayPal account. Deuces.
Shine in the rough. You are watching T-Radio Me. Radio and TV.